Hello, Senators. I'm going to talk about ASG, the organization that we're going to be talking about during the ASG format, which is coming up on Wednesday. I'm going to talk about the mission, the structure of ASG right now, how NC State has been interacting with this for the past couple of years, the reforms that we're proposing for ASG, and then also the reasons that we have for fast tracking the resolution, which is coming up on Wednesday. So if you can stick with me, this is really important information which will let you have an informed vote when you come to ASG debate on Wednesday. So I'm going to talk about the mission. I'm just going to read off the mission of ASG, which is the Association of Student Governments. Founded and funded by students, the University of North Carolina Association of Student Governments champions the concerns of students and ensures affordability and accessibility to quality education today and tomorrow. So that first part, founded and funded by students, might sound familiar with our own mission as an organization, and that's because ASG was actually created by NC State students and NC State student government. We were one of the leaders in the UNC system in creating this organization and asking for a competent organization to help advocate for students' interests to the Board of Governors and the statewide General Assembly. And so that really encompasses the mission of the organization, which is to advocate for students and to represent their voice to the Board of Governors and beyond, and to unite all the systems, organizations, and universities to strengthen that voice that we need heard. And so the Association of Student Governments comprises of all 17 members of the UNC system, which includes universities and the North Carolina School of Science and Math and the North Carolina School of the Arts. And so there is a very similar structure to ASG, just like our own organization, because again there's such similarities with the founding of ASG. But there's two main branches of the Association of Student Governments. The first is the executive branch, which has the president, who is also an ex officio non-voting member of the Board of Governors, a senior vice president, a chief of staff, and board of directors. And so the senior vice president is very similar to our own Vice President Kelsey, who is the leader of the legislative branch. And then the legislative branch comprises of the General Assembly. Instead of a student senate, they have a General Assembly, which its members include 4 delegates from each of the member institutions. So it is equal proportioned representation on the General Assembly. And then it has a lot of committees, which are chaired usually by one of the board of directors. And so the committees vary from university governance to academic affairs to internal operations and government relations, and also a council of student vice presidents, which is a group of SVPs who can come together to talk about the issues that they're facing, both as a student vice president and as a member of their university's board of trustees. For the meetings, there is a meeting once a month. It rotates locations to different member institutions, and it's pretty random in how they pick where they go. The goal is to get most member institutions to host a meeting every year. And then usually there is a 2-day meeting starting Friday afternoon, going on all day Saturday. Sometimes it changes based off what the amount of things that the organization needs to talk about. And then finally, for the budget, ASG has gets a revenue. So this year they got revenue from fees. So every member of a university in the UNC system pays $1 to this organization, and from that they got $201,255 for this year. And as a university, NC State paid $30,629. And so to kind of break this down, I'm going to give you the main headlines of their budget. Just reading straight off from the budget, so you can kind of get where that over $200,000 is being spent. So one of the main areas that they spend it, just like we are offices and professional staff and officer stipends. And so their president gets $6,500, their senior vice president $4,875, their chief of staff $2,750. There's 4 vice presidents of academic and university governance, access and affordability, safety, sustainability and services, and campus outreach. All 4 of those vice presidents get $2,200. Then there's a director of federal and state relations. They each get $1,500, and then there's a director of budget and finance who gets $1,500, and a director of communications who gets $1,500. There's also professional staff, so there's an office manager, and that office manager gets salary and benefits, which total to $53,000. And then finally, as a total, the organization spends $82,021.34 on officer and professional staff stipends. The next portion of the budget is office and operations, so maintaining an office in the General Assembly. That totals to $12,850. The meeting lodgings and travel. So this is lodging and travel to each of the meetings. Again, it rotates. And this is mainly an estimate. On each of these meetings is not the total amount spent. Sometimes less or more is spent to each of the meetings depending on where it is and how long people have to drive to it. And so the total of that is $49,150. The next line is advocacy and special projects. That consists of $20,336. And then administrative, so financial services and emergency reserves, just like the student fees here at NC State, that is $36,896. So out of that $201,000, over $201,000 budget, the advocacy expenditures are about $20,000, and the rest are spent on lodging, travel, stipends, staff, and mandated reserves. So that's a little bit about the budget. The next I want to talk about the history of ASG and what we've been doing with it as a student government. So for the past 6 years, we and other members of the ASG have really talked about the effectiveness of the organization. It spends so much money on non-advocacy issues and non-direct related issues that affect our campuses that we've really been trying to reform the organization, and many member institutions, including our own, have asked and called for reforms time and time again, and they haven't really happened. We successfully had a lower stipend proposal passed last year, so the stipends that I read off actually were lowered from last year, and so we're spending less on that, which is it was a good step forward, but we need to get more done. Also, we last year we passed a bill to really make sure that we increase our involvement in ASG so that we could propose reforms in the next couple of years. And so last year we passed a resolution and a bill to require our senior-most officers, the senior vice president and senior vice president, to go to ASG along with an ASG delegate and the senior ranking member of the graduate school in Senate. And so those four really are myself, Kelsey Mills, Rusty Miles, our ASG delegate, and Nidhi is our graduate student representative. And us four make up the ASG delegation. We're also very fortunate to have Megan Wright, who's the director of budget and finance in ASG, so she's an executive officer of ASG, and so she's also an ex officio member of our delegation. So us five really go to the meetings, and we've been to every single ASG meeting besides November because of homecoming and our responsibilities to the UNC-NC State game and homecoming activities. And we've been active in talking to other member institutions and student governments, and they agree that reform is necessary and it's time to have that discussion, but no one really is taking the charge into deciding what we should do and where we should move forward. And so we decided that this is a time that we need to step up and talk about reforms to ASG. And a lot of things have caused us to think that now is the right time. First of all, the vice chancellors. So our own vice chancellor of Division of Academic and Student Affairs, DASA, Dr. Mullen, has been talking to other vice chancellors in the NC system, and they agree that ASG is not an efficient and effective method to voice student concerns to the Board of Governors. And they are proposing that the organization should be abolished so we can stop spending that $1 student fee. Again, NC State spent over $30,000 and gave $30,000 to ASG last year. And so they're advocating that we get rid of ASG. What that means is that we probably will lose the student who serves as a member of the Board of Governors, which is an extremely critical and vital role for advocating for students to the Board of Governors, having someone on there who can speak during the meetings. They can't vote, but they can speak, and that is something that we definitely don't want to lose. And so we decided now's the time that before they abolish ASG, that we reform it enough that they're competent in the future of the organization and let that student still serve in the Board of Governors. Dr. Mullen has told us that if we have a legitimate plan, which he has seen our plan and thinks that it is legitimate, and we propose it to the vice chancellors and to the board of governors that they will stop calling for an end to the organization as a whole, but will agree to abide by what we propose in the rules. And so really, to get this to pass, we need buy-in from many different member institutions. And so the goal now is to leave NC State and to really bring this plan to the forefront of the discussions in many different executive and legislative bodies of student governments across the UNC system, which takes a lot of time. ASG is going to have a December meeting to discuss reforms, and we will make sure that each member institution has had a chance to look at our plan, our reform plan, before that December meeting, so they can talk to their members of student government and go to the December meeting well informed and well prepared to know what they need to do to reform ASG. And so we really want to make sure that we pass this resolution to send it off to each of the different member institutions to talk about it with their student governments, so they have time to pass a resolution or have important meetings with their student government officials about ASG before the December meeting. Also, ASG is hiring an advisor. It was decided that ASG needed to have an advisor to really help its effectiveness. And if we're going to change the organization so much and cut so much of its money and responsibility and so much of the travel and lodging requirements, it's not really necessary for it to have an advisor. And so we want to make sure that we stop that process before it gets too deep into the search committee. Our own Eileen Coombs, the Director of Student Involvement, is on the search committee, and we want to make sure she's not wasting her time on the search committee if that advisor and that position isn't even necessary in the coming months. And then also, we're called now to be the leader in the UNC system. NC State created this organization, and now it's our turn to make sure that we are making an effective move to making sure this organization is efficiently representing the student voice, and to making sure that we continue to have a student in the Board of Governors. And so this is the reason really that we're calling to fast track this resolution. Again, the resolution calls for a Council of Student Body Presidents to really govern the decision making of the organization, and to have them choose a student body governor who would represent them on the on the Board of Governors. And so we would retain that student seat on the Board of Governors and retain the Council of Student Body Presidents, the most vital portion of the organization right now. And then we would have meetings during Board of Governor meetings at Chapel Hill. And so that would mean that we would be in the exact same place as the Board of Governors if we need to have extra meetings with them, or if we need to show up to their general meetings to talk about student issues, we can. And to show that the student leaders in the UNC system are active and talking about the issues relevant to students. And so we're also hoping this will eliminate some travel and lodging. And we'll also be moving to more Google Video and Skype sessions. So student body presidents who can't make it to Chapel Hill during a meeting can Skype in or video in and save us time and money and energy when talking about these. And so it is extremely important that we pass this resolution. And it's extremely important to me that this plan gets sent to all the member institutions. And so I've really sent it to Senate to get their opinion on this plan. Last year, Andy had a similar plan. It was a little different, but what he did is he went straight to ASG and proposed it. It didn't work. He didn't even talk to Senate, and it didn't pass ASG. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to just send it to ASG and all the different member organizations without talking to Senate first. But it needs to pass quickly. And so if the Senate will not be able to vote on this resolution, then I will send this plan as it stands to different member organizations. But I really wish Senate to give their opinion and to give us criticisms and concerns and issues that come with this plan, so we can appropriately update it before we send it to all the different member institutions. And so I hope that Senate will look at the plan, debate it, give us really good feedback so we can strengthen the plan when we send it to all member organizations. Thanks so much for all you do in Senate and for student government and for the student body at North Carolina State. I really hope that our organization and our university can step up to the plate and really be a leader in the university system, and I look forward to working with you all later. Thanks so much, and go Pack.